Perfect for a bedtime tale filled with wonder, peace, and ancestral comfort. The night fire was born. Before the first footprints were etched into soft soil. Before names clung to rivers or trees, before stars had meanings, before time had a voice. There was only the wild. A world vast and breathing. A world without kings, borders, or noise. Where the wind roamed free and nameless through the tall grasses, and the night had no edges. Where animals moved with confidence, and humans, still new, still learning, moved like whispers among giants. They had no homes. No roof but the sky, no walls but trees. Their days were full of movement. Their nights were full of questions. They followed the herds, the rains, the blooming of berries and the migration of birds. They drank from cold rivers and ate what the land gave. Their eyes were sharp. Their ears were sharper. But at night, they were small. As the sun sank low, long shadows crawled across the land like fingers. The blue sky deepened into velvet, and the air grew cold and close. The people gathered together, bones aching from walking, bellies half full, children drowsy in their arms. They curled close, shoulder to shoulder, heartbeat to heartbeat, trying to hold in warmth as the stars bloomed above. There was no comfort then but each other. No protection but presence. No glow to drive back the dark. Only silence, breath, and the long hush of night creatures waking. They listened. To the rustle of something unseen. To the distant calls of hunting beasts. To the winds that moved like spirits through trees. And inside their chests, the question flickered again. How do we survive this night? Then one night, far away in what we now call Africa, under a sky heavy with stars, something ancient stirred. A mistake. Or maybe not. Two stones, held in two curious hands, struck together. A spark jumped. So small, it could have been missed. But it wasn't. It landed in dry grass. A pause. A shimmer. Then, a breath of flame. Tiny. Golden. Alive. It wavered like a newborn. Then it rose. It hissed like a whisper from the earth itself. And for the first time since humans had walked the land, the night answered them back, with light. The people gathered close, astonished. They had seen light before, the sun, the moon, the stars. But this was different. This light belonged to them. It kissed their skin with warmth. It painted the ground with moving shadows. It drove the cold from their bones and the fear from their hearts. The beasts in the dark paused. They smelled the heat. They felt the shift. And slowly, carefully, they stepped back. The humans had found something new. Something powerful. At first, they watched the fire like it was a wow!
Hunting and harmony, how the Hadza tribe hunts, cooks, and shares a baboon meal. Deep in the wild savannas of Tanzania, the Hadza tribe, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer societies on Earth, continues to live in close harmony with nature. Among the many animals they hunt for survival, baboon is one of the most challenging and respected catches. The hunt begins early, often just after sunrise. The Hadza men move silently through the bush, armed with handcrafted bows and poisoned arrows made from local plants like the desert rose. Tracking baboons is no easy task. They're fast, smart, and travel in groups. It requires deep knowledge of the land, wind direction, animal behavior, and absolute patience. When a baboon is successfully hunted, the group carries it back to their camp. What follows is not just a meal, it's a communal ritual. The animal is first singed over an open fire to remove the fur, then carefully butchered. Every part of the animal is used. The meat is roasted or stewed, sometimes with roots, wild herbs, or honey if available. As the baboon cooks over hot coals, the smell draws children and elders around the fire. When it's ready, everyone eats together. For the Hadza, food isn't just about sustenance, it's about sharing. There are no individual plates. Everyone takes what they need, and everyone is equal. This way of life, while simple, reflects something powerful: respect for nature, deep knowledge of survival, and a sense of community that modern life often forgets. To outsiders, the idea of hunting and eating baboon might seem shocking, but for the Hadza, it's part of a sustainable tradition that has lasted for tens of thousands of years. Hunting and harmony, how the Hadza tribe hunts, cooks, and shares a baboon meal. Deep in the wild savannas of Tanzania, the Hadza tribe, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer societies on Earth, continues to live in close harmony with nature. Among the many animals they hunt for survival, was alive. Baboon is one of the most challenging, and bursts of laughter. Chaba stood over the stove, stirring a pot of fragrant stew so rich that even the curtains seemed to lean in for a sniff. Dudukwi danced between the counter and the oven, wielding a wooden spoon like a conductor's baton. Imor was busy at the chopping board, sending perfect slices of carrots and peppers into the air with a flourish, while Jock kept sneaking little tastes, only to get caught and scolded with mock sternness. "Hey, save some for the rest of us." Chaba laughed, handing Jock a piece of warm bread anyway. Dudukwi sprinkled herbs into the stew, the fresh scent of basil and thyme filling the room. They worked in a happy rhythm, passing spices, telling stories, and breaking into spontaneous song. Every dish was a masterpiece in the making, a golden roast shimmering in the oven, a colorful salad bursting with freshness, and the slow-cooked stew bubbling like a promise of warmth. By the time the table was set, it wasn't just dinner, it was a celebration of friendship, flavor, and the kind of joy you could taste with every bite. The evening began with a burst of laughter before the first onion was even peeled. Chaba, wearing an apron that said "Queen of the Kitchen" in faded gold letters, clutched a wooden spoon like a royal scepter. Dudukwi was already swaying to the beat of the radio, humming an old tune as he set a basket of vegetables on the counter. Tonight, Dudukwi declared, "We are not just making dinner, we are making history." Imor raised an eyebrow. "History that smells like garlic, I hope." "Garlic, joy, and just a little bit of chaos," Jock added, already sneaking a grape tomato from the bowl. The kitchen quickly became a stage. Chaba chopped onions with the precision of a surgeon, though she kept having to pause to wipe tears from her eyes, half from the onions, half from the ridiculous jokes Dudukwi was telling. Imor, ever the perfectionist, arranged sliced peppers into neat rainbow-colored piles, while Jock decided the cheese platter needed sampling, for safety reasons. The stew was the crown jewel. Chaba stirred it slowly, letting the rich aroma of cumin and paprika fill every corner of the room. Dudukwi, pretending to be a food critic, would lean over and sniff dramatically before nodding like a man who had just tasted heaven. But the real magic happened when they started layering flavors together. Imor's bright citrus dressing drizzled over roasted vegetables, Jock's crusty bread pulled hot from the oven, Dudukwi's spicy glaze sizzling on the roast, and Chaba's stew bubbling like a song. They moved in harmony, passing utensils, sharing sips of wine, and stealing bites off each other's plates. Someone would tell a story, someone else would burst into song, and the whole room would roar with laughter. At one point, Dudukwi tried to teach everyone a little kitchen dance. Half salsa, half "Don't drop the soup," and it became impossible to stir without. Hadza music, the ancient soundtrack of survival, spirit, and community. The Hadza people of northern Tanzania are one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer tribes in the world. Living near Lake Eyasi, they maintain a way of life that has remained largely unchanged for thousands of years. Central to their cultural identity and community life is music, a powerful, expressive tradition that brings the tribe together and connects them with nature, their ancestors, and each other. The role of music in Hadza life. For the Hadza, music is not a separate art form, it's woven into daily life. Unlike modern societies where music may be confined to concerts, recordings, or entertainment venues, Hadza music is functional, spiritual, and communal. It is not performed in the conventional sense, it is experienced and lived, often spontaneously. Music is used for celebration, after a successful hunt or community gathering. Storytelling. Passing down tribal stories, myths, and history through song. Rituals and ceremonies, including rites of passage, healing dances, initiation, and weddings. Bonding and play, around the campfire in the evening, singing, clapping, and dancing. Spiritual connection, songs are often directed toward spirits of the forest, ancestors, or used in rainmaking rituals. Instruments, rhythm from the earth. Most Hadza music is vocal and percussive, made using the body and natural instruments. Instruments are few but deeply symbolic and effective. Drums, often crafted from hollowed logs and animal skins. Used for rhythm in group dances and ceremonies. Gourds and shakers, filled with seeds or pebbles to create percussive textures. Hand clapping and body stomping, a fundamental part of rhythm making, often performed by everyone present. Wooden flutes and bows, rare but used occasionally for melodic lines, sometimes mimicking bird calls or forest sounds. Despite the simplicity of tools, the music is rich, layered, and emotionally resonant, creating an immersive experience that resonates through the open bush. Music is oral tradition and education. In the absence of written language or recorded archives, music is the Hadza's living memory. Songs serve as oral textbooks, teaching how to track animals, what plants are edible or medicinal, tribal history and legends, behavioral codes and social expectations. Children learn by watching and participating, absorbing rhythm, language, and cultural meaning from a young age. This ensures that traditional knowledge is passed from one generation to the next in an engaging and unforgettable way. Dance, the movement of spirit and joy. Hadza music is almost always accompanied by dance. It is not choreographed but rather intuitive, flowing with the rhythm of the drums and the song. Dance reinforces unity. Everyone joins in, elders, women, children. Energy release. After a long hunt or ceremony. Spiritual engagement, used in trance or healing rituals. The atmosphere dental click, similar to tis-tis, disapproval sound. Lateral click, like urging a horse to move, tis-tsk, but more side tongue. Alveolar click, a sharp pop made with the tongue against the roof of the mouth. Palatal click, a more complex, tongue-curling sound. These clicks are fully integrated into words and meaning, not added for emphasis or rhythm. That means a name like Ghana or Zoni includes click consonants as essential building blocks, just as English names have vowels and consonants. A linguistic mystery. The Hadza language is one of the most enigmatic and isolated on Earth. It's classified as a language isolate, which means it has no confirmed relation to any other language family. Though it shares the use of click sounds with voice-on languages, mainly found in southern Africa, linguistic studies have shown that Hadza developed its click-based system independently. This has fascinated researchers and anthropologists for decades. The fact that the Hadza language has survived millennia without writing, and that it's only spoken by around 1,200 to 1,500 people, makes it a living linguistic fossil, a window into early human speech patterns. Names with clicks, identity through sound. In Hadza culture, names are deeply tied to identity, environment, and ancestry. Many Hadza names are impossible to write accurately in the Roman alphabet because of these clicks, which means their true pronunciation can only be learned by careful. For example, a man's name might be Puda, with an L short click at the beginning. A woman's name might be Noma, starting with a lateral click. These are not nicknames or special terms. Everyday names used in introductions, storytelling, and ceremonies. To a Hadza person, these sounds are second nature, but for outsiders, they require careful listening, practice, and respect. Mispronouncing a click in a name can change its meaning entirely or make it incomprehensible. Preserving the Hadza language and its clicky names is not just a matter of academic interest, it's a vital part of protecting indigenous identity, cultural sovereignty, and human linguistic heritage. In a world where thousands of languages are going extinct due to globalization and assimilation, the Hadza language stands as a symbol of resilience. Their click-based names and spoken traditions represent an unbroken line to some of the earliest human communication systems. A living link to our origins. Some anthropologists believe that click languages like Hadza may be among the oldest spoken languages on Earth, potentially dating back to the time of the first modern humans in East Africa. That makes every name, every conversation, and every Hadza story told in their native language a living echo of our human roots.
Cooked, gathered, and listened to the world before the world became so noisy. History, for a long time, was told from the top down. Kings, generals, conquerors. Maps redrawn. Empires made and unmade. Battles with dates. Treaties with clauses. Crowns and swords. But that's not the only way time passed. People are hungry now for something else. A history that lives lower to the ground.